Good evening, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com with the very latest on Hurricane Matthew. This is the satellite animation making landfall right now over eastern Cuba. This is the worst Matthew has looked throughout the day. Had a pretty well-defined eye moving towards Cuba, but it certainly looks more disrupted now. Probably deceiving as it moves off and heads into the Bahamas. This will re-intensify, it looks like, and stay a formidable major hurricane. This is the latest track map update. The current information still 130 mile per hour winds moving north at 8, and it is probably going to start to turn more towards the northwest tomorrow through the Bahamas, very close to Andros Island. Let me draw with yellow here, and eventually passing over very close to the Florida coast according to this forecast, and then making quite a hard turn to the right to the northeast here, paralleling the Carolinas and Georgia. I think this is going to continue to change and be farther offshore, but again, that's just my opinion. We'll let the National Hurricane Center officially declare that. The thing that they don't do, unless they absolutely have to, as an example, let's say you have a hurricane that's forecast like this, and information comes out and people see computer models and whatever, very rarely will they come in and change their forecast track to look like that. Last year they had to do something kind of like that with Joaquin, but I don't think we're going to see anything like that right now, of a dramatic change, something like this. But there are indications that this might not ever reach the United States coastline from some of the modeling. Still too early to make that call, but just a few sort of hints, sort of cracks in the foundation of those who thought that this was a sure thing to maybe hit Florida, for example. And certainly up here in the Carolinas, this no longer tracks into eastern North Carolina over Wilmington or whatever, so maybe things are changing. The watches and warnings have been updated. The pink area now, the hurricane watch extending up the coast of Florida. Hurricane warning now in effect, including Lake Okeechobee. Tropical storm warning in effect all the way over to the southwest side of Florida, believe it or not. So let's take a look at the public advisory. Again, latest information from the National Hurricane Center indicating that it's at 20.4, 74.4, moving north at 8, air pressure 950, and the winds 130 miles per hour. So here's the watch warning information. I suggest you take a look at that. There's just too many areas to read. It is on the National Hurricane Center site in the public advisory section. But the part that I want to emphasize again is the hazards affecting land. Clearly, the wind area through here going to affect the Bahamas, Cuba, etc. And then those conditions are going to spread through the northwest and central Bahamas through tomorrow into tomorrow night, Wednesday night, and then eventually towards the coast of Florida and possibly the Keys area as we get into early Thursday, which they talk about in this area. It's just a huge, vast area of populated area that this is going to affect. It looks like anyway, so I highly suggest you read the public advisory in this area right here, hazards affecting land, the more pressing issues, the very heavy rainfall continuing. And then down here I want to talk about the storm surge, this area right here, extremely important. The combination of a dangerous storm surge and large and destructive waves could raise water levels by as much as the following amounts, etc. So let's look at it. Southern coast of Cuba, east of Cabo Cruz, 7 to 11 feet. That'll start to subside. Again, here in the Bahamas, 10 to 15 feet. North Palm Beach to the Flagler, Volusia County line, 3 to 5 feet. And this is above ground, folks. Not just above normal tide levels, but above ground. And this is relative to the timing of the surge with the tidal cycle. So imagine 3 to 5 feet of water rise. That's pretty significant, I would say. So again, read this area in the public advisory, hazards affecting land, the prototype storm surge watch warning graphic. Let's see what they say. Areas qualify for inclusion, etc. The prototype graphic is available at hurricanes.gov. So I guess this is out. Oh yeah, it's the watch warning graphic. Okay. They haven't issued, I guess, the map showing the storm surge potential just yet. That will come eventually. And then, of course, surf. Big swells generated by this will be going out towards the United States and elsewhere throughout the Caribbean, the north part of the islands of the Caribbean, Be careful out there. This is, this is a big deal. Now let's see if the discussion is out. I'm going to refresh this. Hopefully the 11 o'clock discussion. Come on, refresh, come on. Boy, I bet it's just being hammered. No, the forecast discussion is not out. I can't just sit here wasting. I don't have enough ad lib time to wait for the discussion, unfortunately. I just wanted to see what the reasoning was behind this particular track. I think you can see, it looks to me like what's happening is with this bend sharper to the right, is that not so much that there's less ridging, so to speak, but this trough is probably more progressive in moving its way to the east and southeast, and so it's giving Matthew a boot on out, and the slower process of it getting up through here is allowing that trough energy to dig down and maybe erode the west side of the ridge, or maybe the ridge moves off to the east just enough that this is able to scoot on off the coast of the Carolinas. But the increased threat down here to Florida, certainly something to take note of, and we'll see if that holds true. I understand that the Gulfstream 4, the G4 jet, flew out in this region. I don't know specifically where off the top of my head. Could probably find it on Twitter if I really needed to, but the bottom line is the G4 NOAA Gulfstream 4 jet sampling the environment around Matthew to give the global models more input, and that information should go into the 0Z runs, and we'll start to see that come out in the next hour or so, first with the Global Forecast System, the GFS, and then later on with the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, the ECMWF, as I try to ad-lib my way into seeing the 11 o'clock discussion. And no, it's still not out yet, so it's probably a lengthy one from Stacy Stewart, a fine forecaster at the Hurricane Center. So what I'll do, probably going to cut another video once the GFS comes out, and then at that point I can go over the discussion and then kind of see how it compares to what the GFS shows. So if you're going to stay up late, I will have enough frames from the GFS probably by about 12:30. So for all you night owls out there, let's say 1 a.m. Eastern Time for another video. That's only about 2 hours from now. And we can cover what the GFS shows with that new added Gulfstream 4 data. Will it make a difference? Is it closer to Florida? Is it farther away? A lot of people, really depending on this, to make decisions. And so it's going to be more important every model cycle and every Hurricane Center update cycle now more than ever. Well, that's the latest, what's happening with Matthew. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks as always for tuning in. And like I said, if you're up late, I'll be producing another video and we'll have it online by 1 a.m. Eastern Time.